The FIFA World Cup has kicked off in Qatar amid plenty of controversy. Iran's national team has been in the spotlight in the lead-up to the tournament, with many wondering if players would use the opening match to show solidarity with anti-regime protests happening in Iran. Well, today, before their match with England, the Iranian squad chose not to sing the country's national anthem as it was played in the stadium. Iranian fans shouted as the anthem was played, and many made gestures with their thumbs down. In this country, a group of Iranian-Canadian activists, journalists, and academics are calling on all players and coaches at the World Cup to show solidarity with the protests in Iran. Arsalan Kahnemuyipour drafted that petition. He is an associate professor of linguistics at the University of Toronto. Professor Kahnemuyipour, I wonder if I can get your reaction to what we saw in the game today with the Iranian soccer players standing silent as the national anthem played. What was your reaction to that moment?
Yes, thank you for having me. That was probably one of the best moments of the game for me, because we were all looking for a sign of support for what's happening in Iran. And that was probably the clearest sign of support we saw from the players in today's game. No one sang the anthem, which is very, very unusual.
I know there was also some commentary from the captain of the team, I believe it was yesterday, about the situation in your home country. I just wonder what kind of risk are these players exposing themselves to by taking these public acts of defiance against the regime and its behavior?
It's hard to tell, but the reality is that these national players are superstars, so they're very well known, and that gives them some protection compared to many others that are risking their lives every day to go on the streets, or even some less known athletes who have shown more clear signs of support for the movement that's happening in Iran. So, for example, an international beach soccer player showed the haircutting, action imitating the haircutting, which is a clear, iconic symbol for the woman life freedom uprising that's happening in Iran.
They're obviously using this platform to draw attention to this and to show their support through these actions. There's been some suggestion, though, that maybe because of everything, Iran shouldn't be allowed to participate in the World Cup. What's your view on that? Should the soccer team be allowed to stay despite everything happening with its government?
I think there could be a strong case made for banning the Iranian team from the World Cup, for sure. The mere fact that Iranian women cannot go to the stadiums in Iran freely to watch their national team or even their clubs they're supporting could be a reason to ban them from any international sports scene. But the fact of the matter is that they're now in the World Cup and they're playing. And what we're looking for is signs of support for human rights, for women's rights from the players. And even though what you referred to were some signs that were somewhat heartwarming, especially Haj Safi's interview yesterday and not singing the anthem today, but definitely for most Iranians, these are not enough.
What would be enough, sir? I mean, they are there, they're athletes, they're competing. I mean, what more could they do, do you think, in the context of where they are and what they're doing?
Yeah, they could have made more clear statements, either in interviews or just to, issue a statement, perhaps, from a number of players. But also during today's game, even though the game was, very much in favor of England, we scored 2 goals, and there was an expectation from the people that the player who scored, Mehdi Taremi, would show a sign, as I said, the haircutting gesture or something. There's another one where people sit down on the floor. This has happened in Iranian games in Iran for people who are under much more threat, sitting down in the form of like having their hands tied to a pole, which is what happened to one of the people who died in Iran, who was killed, Khodanur, who was one of the protesters in Iran who got killed a few weeks ago. So those kinds of clear acts of support were not seen on the field.
The acts of support that you have seen and this petition you've launched, which in just a couple of days, more than 50,000 people have signed in support of the protest movements in Iran. I mean, what hope do you have that these can affect things? Because they are largely symbolic, obviously, and the regime still holds on and is in the face of 60 days of protests now. I mean, what impact do you hope this has?
Well, I mean, the petition that you're referring to, we put this together. We are a bunch of Iranian Canadians, all human rights activists, but also we also share a love for the game. And we put this petition together a week or two ago, and just in the past couple of days, it's picked up. And now, just before our interview, I checked, it was over 62,000 signatures. I invite your viewers to actually sign on to change.org and look for solidarity with women's life freedom in the World Cup to sign the petition. That petition is actually directed at other players on the other teams. We're talking about national teams of England, the United States, Wales, France, Germany, any team in the World Cup. They can show a sign of solidarity with the Iranian people, which could actually save lives. Our concern is that because of the World Cup, all the eyes of the world are turning to the World Cup. There's an estimate of possibly 5 billion people watching the games, and that's exactly when the Islamic Republic can, increase the crackdown and kill people as they are on a daily basis. So we're asking the players and coaches of these teams to show a clear sign of support for women's life freedom. And by doing that, that's not a political act. They're just, supporting women's rights and human rights. These are statutes of FIFA. There should be no discrimination toward anyone based on gender or race or anything.
Just one final point, sir. Canada plays its first game on Wednesday, and there was some controversy earlier this year about Canada and Iran maybe playing a friendly. I know they're not going to play Iran in this tournament necessarily, but what would you like to see from the Canadian athletes on this issue when they take the pitch on Wednesday?
We're talking about Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David, Tejan Buchanan, Kamal Miller, Jonathan Osorio, Richie Leary, any one of them. And of course, our captain, Atiba Hutchinson, and our coach, John Herdman, to please take a moment on the field. Before you get on the field, just show your hair snapping move, a hair cutting move, which is a clear sign of support for the movement that's happening in Iran. And by doing that, you can actually save lives.
Okay, Arsalan Kahnemuyipour, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.